Alright, so good afternoon everyone. Welcome po sa day 1 ng ating mushroom processing webinar. So my name is Vanessa. I'll be hosting this webinar for the next 3 days. And before we get started, I would like to inform everyone that we are being recorded po. So you'll get access to all the recorded file. All of them will be uploaded sa ating Google Drive. Okay, so let's just go ahead and check muna kung may naka-upload ng files sa Google Drive natin. Hold on po. Yan. So, as of now, wala pang naka-upload sa ating Google Drive. Yung kasing presentation natin, isahan po kasi siya. So, we would like to avoid kasi yung mga nag-advance reading kasi minsan kasi even though nasa day 3 na yung ating nasa day 3 na yung mga pinasan, minsan nagtatanong sa day 1 or day 2. So we would like to avoid that. I'll be uploading the presentation tomorrow po. After ng day 2, i-upload po natin yung presentation. Okay? And I would like to clear things out din pala about sa ating Google Drive. So as you can see on our chat room, I was able to paste na yung ating link, Google Drive link. But you can also find this, just go back sa Messenger. The time na nag-register kayo ni FarmTech, we sent out 2 access link. Again, the first one is your Zoom access. That's why you were able to join this meeting. And then the second one or the last one is your Google Drive access. So wala po tayong hindi sinesendan ng Google Drive. As long as you registered, you paid, that means you're gonna get access. Okay? All right. And also, I would like to clear things out din sa mga pangalan. If ever lang na nakigamit ka ng Zoom account, kung hindi mo Zoom account yung ginagamit mo, please rename po. Alright? Kasi kung hindi mo Zoom account yan, that means your name is not appearing here sa mga participants' name. So I would like you to confirm that with me. If ever lang nakigamit ka ng account, just message me here sa ating chat room. You can do a private message naman dyan. Or else, if you're using a laptop or a computer, it's very easy to rename naman. May arrow dyan, more, and then click nyo lang. Then you should be able to see the option of rename if you're using laptop. Okay? All right, so with regards to our Google Drive, you have 2 months access. So after 2 months, the files will be automatically deleted. So as much as possible, please download the files within the 2 months na access ninyo. Also pala, you are not allowed to upload yung ating mga video, especially Zoom replay or yung presentation, wag natin i-upload sa social media or sa YouTube, especially sa YouTube. Okay, if you know someone, lagi natin sinasabi, if you know someone that would like to join or mapanood yung replay natin, all you have to do po is provide yung ating Facebook pages. So we have 2 official Facebook pages, yung ating Philippine Agricultural Webinar and also yung Agricultural Learning Center. We posted already yung first and second topic or second week topic for June. So yung mga interested po ng natural farming, composting at iba pang mga topics natin for June, please register na kasi we only offer limited slots po. Alright? Ayan. So as you can see, pinapakita po ni Circuit, we'll have like 4 more topics yata. Tingnan natin. 1, 4 or 3 or 4 more topics. So yung mga interested again ng mga topics natin, we only offer limited slots. So please join na if you want to join, if you're interested sa mga ibang topics natin. Ayan. So I would like to confirm, Ma'am or Sir 606547 habang pinapakita ni Circuit yung mga topics natin. Kausapin ko lang yung mga yung mga iba yung mga pangalan. Yan, si number 606547, please rename po. Or else kasi baka malagay kayo sa waiting room. Okay? So let's see. I know, this is actually basic hydroponics. Nag-start tayo ng mainit, And it's very trending, lagi naubusan ng slots. Again, limited slots na kami sa lahat ng ating mga topics. So please, Kung may nagustuhan kayo, mag-message na kayo agad and then magpa-register po. Okay? Yan, nawala yung screen natin. Ayan, okay. Also, last thing, no, we would like to request that can we please keep our mic on mute muna during the discussion. You will be you will be given a chance to to ask questions on your mic later po after po ng discussion natin. As of now, we would like to lessen yung mga background noises. That's why I'll be just removing your access muna na makapag-unmute. So later on, pagtapos na yung discussion, we're gonna go ahead and give you access po sa mga microphones.
Okay.
Yan. So yeah. So since it's past 1 p.m. now, we can start na po, Sir Kid. Salamat po.
Nag-reply na rin po si 606. Good afternoon to all and welcome to our first day ng mushroom processing. Okay. What will we be talking about over the span of the next 3 days? So before we continue, my name po is Keith Hernandez. I'm a natural farming practitioner, speaker, and trainer for different LGUs and NGOs for different agriculture sector as well as livelihood projects. So isa na dyan po is yung sa ating mushroom, no? We've been doing it for some time in different areas in the Philippines. So ano yung mga topics natin? Sa day 1 po, I will be discussing an introduction to mushroom processing and preservation. Ano ba yung difference ng dalawa? We will also be discussing the techniques and process as well as harvesting and grading. Later on, we will be discussing as well the curing and the smoking techniques, yung fermentation and pickling, steeping, salting, sugar concentrations, drying, dehydration. Pag-usapan natin, in other words, lahat ng processes. And in most cases po, if you just do it in a baseline, this is being taught as well in a food processing. No? We actually have our value adding course for this. But for our course, this will be specifically for mushroom processing. Okay? Sa day 2 po, doon na natin sisimulan yung talagang process itself. Kasi ngayon, introduction lang muna. And that's gonna be for fresh mushroom, yung mga drying techniques, freezing, pickling, and powdered mushrooms, pati yung making of mushroom ketchup. Now, all of these are gonna be with their corresponding recipes, no? But before I even start, I would like to give a full disclosure. Again, full disclosure po tayo na kahit paano natin ibigay yung recipe ng kahit anong luto, ng kahit ano pong gawin po natin, no? Technically po, hindi natin basta-basta mape-perfect yan. Bakit? Dahil po yung asin mismo, na asin na lang, no? Bawat lugar may kanya-kanya po siyang salinity. Or ibig sabihin level ng pagkaalat. Meron pong konti asin na kahit na 1 kutsara, 2 kutsara na nalagay mo sa luto mo, is wala pa rin, hindi pa rin maalat. Meron naman na 1/4 teaspoon lang, ang alat-alat na. Di ba? Katulad din yan sa asukal and as well as yung mga pepper. So it would be dependent on specific na mga natin, yung tinatawag na ingredients. Okay? So as long as we're clear on that, kasi marami nag-iisip kagad na sundin lang nila kahit ano, mape-perfect na. You would need to still do some trial and error in your part kasi kahit na yung oil, no? Sabihin natin, vegetable oil, iba-iba po yung boiling point nila or yung kanilang temperature na naaabot. Depende sa klase kasi po yan. So mabuti na po yung clear tayo that the information that I'll be providing are suggested according to my areas. Of course, there would still be some bit of a tweaking that you need to do in your part. No? Kahit ano po yan, wala pong one size fits all. Even in cooking, Kaya nga, di ba, pag nag-follow tayo ng recipe, it's going to usually say salt and pepper to taste. O yan, di ba? Clear po yan ha. At least I'm giving a disclosure before I even start. Na yung makikita nyo po dito will still be dependent on your specific taste buds. Kanya-kanya tayong dila. No? Hindi po makluklon yung dila natin na basta-basta na parehas tayong panglasa lahat. I think that's obvious. Anyway, before I continue, I would like to just quickly check with all our participants. Good afternoon to all. I'd like to check if there are any of you that does not understand Tagalog. The reason why I'm asking, because we might have some international participants or foreigners that are joining us. So speak now or forever hold your peace. Joke. Okay. I don't think that there are any. Yeah. Ngayon, Tagalog, mga Pinoy naman lahat yata pangalan. No? But I wanted to check because there are really sometimes that we have people. No? Sir Santos, I received your message, by the way. Sir Sanchez pala. Iba si Sir Santos. Si Sir Sanchez, I received your message. I'll reply to that once I'm free, okay? And as well as si Sir Santos din. Yung dalawa sila Santos eh. So may mga message na sila. We have some participants that are familiar to me already because they have been joining in our different series, no? So every time that I see them talagang napapatuwa tayo, napapasmile. Sabay ganun. Anyway, marami yung topic. And this will be a bit technical ako magturo ng kaunti, no? Hindi lang yung basta lang sa YouTube na i-mix mo lang lahat, yun na yun. So at least klaro po tayo dyan. I wanted to just be sure that in most cases po, we are at the same page. Kasi may isa kaming student from way back, nagre-reklama until now kasi mali daw yung binigay na ingredients. Paano mamamali yun sa katulad ngayon? There is around 30 plus sa inyo, 40. Palagay na natin yung iba, hindi pa online. Tapos sa lahat ng classes ko, siya nagre-reklamo pa rin. Mali daw kasi talaga. Tapos 10 beses ko na yata sinagot, explain ko sa kanya. Ayaw niya pa rin. Dahil mali-mali daw. Eh naku po, wala na tayong magagawa kung siya mismo yung may mali. Ayaw makinig. Ang tigas ng ulo. Kunin mo lag, sir. Yung fruiting lag mo, pukpok. Malapit na, no? But sige lang. Anyway, like what I've been stating, no, some of our participants have been contacting me, and that's because I give out my information. You can always message me po in my personal page. That's Project Natural Farming. That is where you can contact me anytime. Yan. I'd like to welcome Mrs. Jose Santos. Nagpaalam siya. Mag-join daw siya. Natuwa sila, no? Yan. So, you can even email me or contact me. Unfortunately, sometimes I am really busy and I will not be answering any calls, no? Kahit na mag-introduce ka pa. Katulad kanina, I missed 3 calls from a certain participant kasi may talagang ginagawa pa kami. So pasensya na po. But I do reply as soon as I am available. Okay? Now, as again, as a clarification, I would be stating and putting it here, my limits of liability. Although the author, which is me, have used their best effort to ensure that the content of this module are correct at the time of creation, it is impossible to cover all situations. And the information is distributed as is basis without warranty. Neither me, the author, nor the administration of FarmTech shall be liable for any liability loss or profit or other damages caused or alleged to have been caused directly or indirectly by following the guidelines in this module. Yes po, may recording po tayo. So at least clear tayo, no? Kasi ang sabi, ang clinic-claim niya, nalugi daw siya. Kasi sinunod niya yung ano. Sabi ko naman, testing muna, di ba? And nasa slides naman yan parate na meron tayong limits of liability. Hindi po yan mabibigay lahat ng technique. Minsan nga, sa pangdinig o sa senses natin, basic senses, no? The touch, the smell, the taste, iba-iba po. Okay? So we need to still use what we are provided, not just following everything. Okay? At least klaro na tayo. So let's talk about the history. The consumption of mushroom probably occurred during the prehistoric times. In the hunting and gathering period, unlike plants, mushroom could not be cultivated at first, and they were collected for a long period of time. Now, even today, no, relatively few species of mushrooms can be cultivated. Hindi lahat ng klase ng mushroom kaya natin paramihin. And I discussed a lot of that sa ating mushroom production na class, which ended yesterday. So, in case po hindi kayo nakasali, pwede po kayong mag-join sa next natin. At least pati sa production alam na natin, no? Hindi lang sa processing. Now, if you have been already a mushroom connoisseur, ganun yung mga term, no? Kung kayo po ay nagma-mushroom na matagal na, like I see here several people that have mushroom, we have yung tender loving care mushrooms, si Ma'am 606, at saka si Sir Ruales mushrooms, yan. So, they already have a business established. Now, I would like to set expectations po that I actually might be stating some practices that you are not doing. Okay? Na barang bago. And this is because we follow a more technical sense in producing mushrooms. Hindi yung basta na lang tumubo. We actually take care of the humidity and all. Nadidiscuss ko po yun doon. Yung temperature, paano yung mga environmental issues, even the pests and diseases, paano sila. So I'm inviting you if you're interested, no. Abot kaya naman kasi si FarmTech eh. We try to make it as available as possible. But as early as 46,000 years ago, mushrooms was already there. And in some culture, it was even utilized, no, for yung mga hallucinogenic effects ng mushroom. A light toxin in the mushrooms would be used. May audio po. Yun. Pa-check nga po si Sir Ruales. Kanina pa, akala ko na nakikinig na siya, nakatutok lang. Anyway, all the slides will be provided. I think we have a personnel from the Department of Agrarian Reform, no, si Ma'am Luella, if I'm not mistaken. So, hindi ko lang alam kung saan siya na area. But yes po, we will be providing recordings, the presentation, and cheat sheets for this. Okay, pati mga recipes. So, yan, simulan natin. Na even sa Egyptians, no, believe that mushrooms to be plant of immortality. The pharaohs decreed that only they could eat mushrooms. Swapang, no? Sila lang. Yung Romans then thought mushrooms were food of the gods. And many people collect mushrooms for the purpose of consumption. But lots of the myth and false concepts still survive until today. Marami. And that's why I introduce the history of it first. Kasi hanggang ngayon, marami pa rin tayong mga nakikinig, no? Or nakikinig sa mga maling paniniwala. Even the processing, no? Even the harvesting, even the production. May mga maling paniniwala pa rin. Ewan ko lang, si Ma'am TLC. Ma'am, yung mushroom farm nyo, gumagamit ka ng Yakult. Yung mga ganun, no? Mga tipo ganun na pag-usapan namin. Ba't ka magagamit nun? Okay, so tuturo natin yan. Now, further with the history, the Chinese and Japanese have utilized mushroom for medicinal purposes in a very long time, no? And we even have yung shiitake originally was cultured in China about 800 years. Pati yung research in Japan claims that mushroom has medicinal uses, like shiitake was combined with AIDS medication daw, no, para daw maka-boost ng immunity. Sipin natin yan. Ang dami daw magaganda. Some has scientific basis, some has no basis at all. Kaya kailangan po research muna, no? So, yung tengang daga natin, yan, makikita nyo, marami tayong sinabi dito, no? Hepatitis, mga anti-tumor katulad ng tengang daga, no? Was first cultivated in China around 300 to 200 BC. And eto po kasi sila, even the inotake or the enoki, yan, enoki mushrooms. Eto po kasi sila is naging kultura na especially in Asia. While in Europe, they have different uses of their mushroom. Sa atin dito, more in the traditional medication, sinali na. Some are proven, some are not yet proven. Or walang studies. Ganun na lang. Meron nga may nakita ako nga na sinabi nakakaiwas doon ng COVID. Wow, lahat na lang. Iwas COVID. Ang saya. Maybe, maybe not. No? There is actually a theory in which if there are good fungus and good microorganisms, it will protect your area from bad microorganisms such as viruses. Kasi it will increase immunity. But not to the sense na pati ba naman virus kaya pati ba naman COVID kaya tanggalin. No. Okay? So different cultures cultivate different species. Even in France, they did this in the catacombs. No? Kung hindi nyo alam ano yung catacomb, yun po yung cementerio underneath the ground sa mga caves. And they actually grew mushrooms there. Bakit? Maganda yung temperatura, pati po yung microbial at saka fungal na growth maganda. Most probably because of the decaying bodies. So, ang dami. So this was also initially it was planted on top, then binaba na nila because of so many things that happened during those ages. But bottom line is it was still cultivated. Sa kanila more on the button mushrooms. Sa US naman, they actually cultivated different variants, no? Yung mga portobello mushrooms, talagang sikat yan doon na mahal eh. Tsaka cremini per pound, no? Talagang mahal. Dito sa atin, pag sinabi mo bili kayo mushrooms worth 1,000, kalahating kilo, parang walang bibili eh. No? So mahirap pa sa atin i-accept. Now, that's the history of mushrooms. How it came to be. Bakit natin ginagawa? Of course, food preservation naman is a set of techniques or methods to prevent food from spoilage. And since mushroom is a food, it would spoil. Now, the processes include canning, drying, dehydrating, freeze-drying, smoking, pasteurization, irradiation, as well as additional chemical additives. Madami. Now, we need to know the basics first before we can even apply them, if it is proper or not. So food preservation has become an essential part of food industry and daily life. Dati kasi, fresh parate. And that's why most of our ancestors, most of the civilization were nomadic initially. Nagtra-transfer sila from one place to another. By the way, hilig ko kasi sa history, no? So pasensya na. Talagang may references yan ba? Saan galing? Now, food preservation is necessary because it increases instances of food spoilage, no? Can be attributed to the attack of the microbes or diseases causing pathogens. Nagkakaano sila ng sakit. And even oxidation, yung pagpapapresent lang natin sa hangin, the presence of air leads to the destruction of essential compounds, yung mga essential oils natin and nutrients. Which pag nawala po yun, dahil volatile yung iba, can be harmful as a food itself. No? Meron tayo katulad ng, for example lang po ha, sample ko na lang, yung ating pong sibuyas. Pag nahiwa nyo na po yan at itatago nyo lang sa ref, it will actually absorb all the bad microorganisms in your ref. So pag ginamit mo ulit, posible na magka-food poisoning na. And nangyari na yan before, no? In one place in Cebu City, in which yung isang pizzeria, nag-slice sila ng mga onions nila at pinabayaan lang in store, but not in a safe area. So maraming nagka-food poisoning. And that will be one thing that we need to check. Sikat nga yun sila. No? karamihan, no? Lately, daming nag-food poisoning. Meron na naman sa Cebu, meron yata, I think it was Cavite, Bulacan area. Nasa news eh. Hindi ko na matanda kung saan yung isa. But yung isa, sure ako sa Cebu. Na ang daming na food poisoning. And not only here, but also in other areas. Most probably because they prepared the food in advance, yung tinatawag natin na mise en place. No? Mise en place is a French term that would say na everything on its place. Okay? So, hinanda na nila, prepare nila, and sa sobra ng preparation, siguro walang customer sa isang araw, sa sunod na araw ginamit, sa pangatlong araw ginamit, nagkaka food poisoning or even intestinal flu. So delikado po yung mga ganyan, no? So, ano yung mga timeline natin sa klase na pag-prepare? Fire cooking, around 500,000 BC. Sun drying, 12,000 BC. Jam preparation, around 600 AD. Curing, yung mga pagtutusino, pag-ano ng meat products, 1400. Refrigeration is 1784. Kasi doon yun na-invent yung refrigerator. Yung canning is 1809. But this is actually variable tong canning at saka pasteurization. Sino ba talaga yung nauna? No? Then we have yung vacuum packaging in 1945 during the war or after the war. No? And 2000 plus meron na tayong mga chemical preservatives na introduced. Diyan napapasok si Magic sa mga wow, sarap. Ano pa yan? Wala na akong kinoment sa pangalan. Magic na lang. Alam nyo naman ano ibig ko sabihin. Yung mga mix. Sige. So pwede tayo. Tuturuan ko kayo paano gumawa ng ganun. No? Yung tipong panglabas ng umami taste. Hindi na tayo gagamit ng MSG. Pwede. Mushroom ang kapalit. Yan. Ganda, no? So pwede ito pang negosyo, in other words. And the reason why I started teaching this is na-notice natin, ang forte ko kasi po is pag pumupunta ako sa iba't ibang mga barangay, communities to establish livelihood, tinitingnan ko ano yung mga project na pwede sa kanila. And isa sa mga projects na tinuturo namin is yung production. Pero it doesn't rely only in production pala. Kasi paano kung walang market? Or paano kung may disruption of the market like what happened right now? I'm sure some of those that are growing mushrooms as a business na, katulad ni Ma'am TLC, di ba? Nagkaroon kayo ng problema, saan nyo dadalhin yung mushroom nyo? I'm sure. Tatango si Ma'am. Ang dami ng mushroom, ano natin to? Lagay, ginawang kanin, ginawang noodles, lahat na lang, no? Para hindi masayang. So, tuturo ko paano pa, again, as a guide lang po ang ituturo ko. May specific tayo ng mga processes na pwedeng gawin ninyo, pero of course, yung tools ko, you might not have them. Okay? So, setting expectations. Basta as much as possible po, tuturo ko yung pinakamadali. Paano? Yung mga, paano mo malalaman kung okay na yung jam? O, di, hawakan mo. Sabay ganun, no? Tikman mo. So, significantly, etong processing na to became a milestone sa history of food preservation was the 19th century. Kasi dati, yung mga soldiers in the army were living off preserved meats, poorly cured and subject to spoilage. Madaling masira, bumabaho. And they travel around. As you know, si Napoleon, no? Bonaparte is a French conqueror and they would conquer different lands. So malayo yung trina-travel nila. Saan sila kukuha ng pagkain? Ako rin napagtanong no? Dati. Bawat lugar ba? Saan sila may? Wala namang 7-Eleven dati na pagbudating mo sa isang lugar. So when they conquer, they do not just pillage. But most cases, when they're traveling, they have a stock of food na dala-dala nila. Now, salt was essential preservative that was used in that time. It was Napoleon who started to search for a better method. Ang ginawa niya po, simple lang. Nag-announce siya, kung sino ang makakapatagal sa pagkain namin, may award. Come up with everything. So the canning process dates back to the 18th century in France, no, when Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte, concerned about keeping his armies fed, offered a cash prize to whoever could develop a reliable method of food preservation. And eto po, a Frenchman conceived the idea of preserving food in bottles. And after 15 years of experimentation, he realized it was food is sufficiently heated and sealed in an airtight container, it will not spoil. So it was actually Nicholas Appert or Appert who came up with the solution. Siya po yung nag-invento na ilagay sa bote, initin yung bote, at yun po yung magkakaroon ng preservation. After 5 decades, 50 na taon, no? A Frenchman, which was Louis Pasteur, discovered that the link between the presence of microorganisms and the spoiling of foods. Matagal na nilang ginagawa yung pasteurization actually. But si Mr. Louis Pasteur ang nagsabi na dahil kasi sa microbes kaya nasisira, kaya dapat talaga initin. No? Parang inako niya. So masikat pa ngayon si Louis Pasteur kesa kay Nicholas Appert. Ito parang karakter sa Harry Potter eh. Nicholas Appert. Anyway, the breakthrough led to a rise in the new techniques of food preservation, such as canning. But scientists continue to search for more different efficient ways. No? So ano yung process na ito, yung pasteurization? So i-share ko lang po, no, mabilisan. Di ba po meron tayong lata or bottles, no? Yan. Nasa gilid, nagdo-drawing po tayo. Di ba pinupuno po natin yan siya ng ating laman. Now, meron po siyang maliit na space sa ibabaw. Kaya nga minsan, no, parang sasabihin ng iba, parang lugi tayo ah. Hindi na lang pinuno talaga. May rason pala yun. So eto yung laman. Yan, dyan, hanggang dyan lang. Bakit may space parati yung lata? Nagre-reklamo tayo. May rason pala yan silang lahat. During the heating of our cans, yung hangin dito na area will actually be compressed. Pag na-compress yan, kahit na yung labas po ng environment natin is, for example, pasteurization, usually 80 degrees Celsius lang yan, no? Hindi yung boiling point. Even if yung labas is just 80 degrees ang environment, because of the pressurized air here in between, umaabot ng 120 degrees na. So, sa 120 degrees, namamatay na po yung, o sa Bisaya pa, kagaw, yung mga mikrobyo. Kaya pala hindi puno. Huwag po tayo magalit na parang ang lugi ng feeling natin. Pagbukas mo ng mga crackers, for example, yung mga, sabihin ko na brand, yung mga chippy-chippy. No? Bakit puno ng hangin? May mga rason pala yan. Explain ko niyan. Maya. So, the armies needed the food. There was a solution. And this came from France. But only in 1812 na nasimulan to na gawin sa US. 1813 sa England, 1812 sa US. And sa US, si Thomas Kensett po, yung a guy that immigrated to the US, established the first canning facility for oysters. Oyster meat, fruit, and vegetables in New York in 1812. So, to give you a story netong oyster, no, ang ganda ng nangyari sa akin neto. Of course, there is the history that it was the first products that was created in the US. Now, here's sa Negros po, because I am in Negros. We actually have a place which is in Ilog. Ilog is farther up in the south or down in the south ng Negros. And ang pinakaprodukto talaga nila is talaba. In other words, oysters. So kung pupunta ka doon, napapadaan ka or may piyesta, they actually have yung Talaba Festival. Kasi ang ganda talaga ng talaba nila. Perfect yung location. Problema is, okay lang kung bibili ka ng fresh talaba. Paano kung gusto mo kumain sa ibang lugar? For example, taga Manila ka, pumunta ka na miesta ka. Paano mo madadala? So I had a project with the PW doon, mga PWD. mga persons with disability, yung mga napilay na, mga naputulan ng paa, yung mga medyo hirap sa paningin. Yan. So tinuruan natin, sabi ko, don't you know na itong oyster pwede to siyang gawing pickles? Gulat sila. Paano yun, sir? So ginawa namin na para siyang sardines. No? Oyster in oil. And I taught them the proper procedure. Ngayon, well, before, ganun na lang, no? Hindi nang, I'm not sure ngayon kasi hindi na ako nakapagbisita sa kanila. But before, umabot pa yung mga products na dumadating na ng UK, dumadating na ng Germany, which was actually nice because the Filipinos that wanted to taste yung Filipino na oyster na malalaki dun from that area, pwede nang dalhin, pati yung mga nagbibisita sa lugar. So it became a delicacy. Hindi siya madaling masira if properly processed. Yun po yung punto natin ngayon. So, mushroom. Simulan natin. In harvesting and grading fresh mushroom, there are different processing steps that should be considered. Sa atin kasi pag nag-harvest tayo ng mushroom, diretso na lang. In most cases, tanggalin mo lang sa fruiting bag, tapos taktakin mo, tapos irarap na natin. But there are actually different steps. First is yung sanitation, safety and sanitation mo. Let us always consider that mushrooms produce spores, no? Especially when they're already at their fruiting stage. May mga spores po yan o mga maliliit na fungi na pwede nating malanghap. So even before, I always suggested, even before the pandemya natin, sinasabihan ko ng tao, pag pumapasok ka sa mga mushroom houses ninyo, magtakip kayo ng ng ating ilong at saka bibig. Magmask kayo. PPE. Dati pa yan. Tapos maghugas kayo ng kamay kasi you might be the one introducing yung mga makakasama sa mushroom natin. So dapat safety and sanitation. Next is yung harvesting, cleaning, and storing of mushroom. Ano ba yung proper? Okay? So tignan natin. So sa safety and sanitation, as I mentioned, the most important detail in post-production aspects of mushroom production is to maintain a high quality and safe product for sale. Gusto natin malinis, safe siya, de kalidad. Mushrooms in particular are unique in that they are mostly water. Basa po yan. Actually, more than 90% is water. And are not best cleaned by washing. So dapat pala hindi hinuhugasan. Ewan ko, sino naghuhugas sa inyo ng mushroom ninyo bago ipack? Meron kasi. Meron akong kilala dito, nasa Robinsons pa siya, no? Nagbebenta. Ang ganda, ang saya. Sagi na pagkatapos. So, it will ruin the texture and shelf life of the product. Now, for this reason, it is critical to ensure that mushrooms are carefully handled during all phases of harvesting through selling. Hindi po basta na lang na tanggalin mo, benta mo. Okay? So, sa harvesting naman, mushroom should be harvested directly into clean stainless or food-grade plastic containers. Again, food-grade plastic containers or stainless. Isa po yan na requirement sa ating FDA na any processing dapat stainless na. Pero usually kasi home-based tayo, no? Small farm lang. So, hindi talaga ito nasusunod. But in a production area na talaga na malakihan, dapat naka-stainless na yan. Pati yung flooring, tapos yung paa mo, marami silang requirement. And that is actually dependent. No? Dependent po yan sa processing guides. Now, all harvesters should wash their hands and with warm water and soap before heading out to harvest. An alternative option would be for everyone to wear food-grade latex or vinyl gloves when harvesting. PPE pa rin. Kasi kahit na yung kuko nyo, posibleng magkaroon yan ng mga bad, non-beneficial na mga fungi and microbes that can infect ang ating mga pinapatubo. Now, the proper timing. Kailan ba dapat tayo mag-harvest? It is critical to achieve a quality crop that will last while it is tempting to let the mushroom get as large as possible. No? What is important is the integrity of the mushroom to hold up to storage and transport before consumed. So I usually suggest po umbrella pa lang sila. Yung curve pa lang, no? Wag po yung talagang umangat na. Pag umangat na kasi to, kahit na maliit pa, no? Pag umangat na kasi yan, mabilis na lang yung shelf life niya pag tinanggal natin. Mabilis siya mag-dry up. So I would rather harvest na bata pa kaysa na yung matanda na hindi na niya kayang i-keep yung freshness niya. Okay? Karamihan kasi ganyan na haharvestin. Pag ganyan na sila mag-harvest, ay naku po. 3 araw, 4 na araw, wala na. Sagi na yan. And I think for those that are already doing this, naintindihan nila yung sinasabi ko. I really do not suggest na ganito na. Mga rounded pa lang siya, okay naman. Ang iba kasi naisip, lugi sir. No? Sayang din yung additional na 6 hours to 1 day na patubuin siya kasi lalaki pa yan. Opo. But we need to consider na yung quality. Isipin nyo kung bumili ka ng mushroom tapos pagdating sa inyo is medyo basa na, nabubulok na. Kasi may stage pa yan na nandun sa freezer or sa cool area ng ating mga malls, no, or kung saan ba. Ito po at least ma-assure tayo na matagal pa siya. Okay? Now, since the edge of the mushroom is not always obvious from above, growers often check the edge with their pinky to see if it is ready. No? Mushrooms that are ready for harvest should be carefully cut at the base with scissors or a knife or pulled or twisted off. Pero sanitize pa rin yung gunting or cutter natin. Now, in most cases talagang iniikot lang natin tapos matatanggal. Pag madali siyang tanggalin, hinog na siya. Pero pag hindi pa siya pwedeng iikot, ay naku po, pwede pa yan tumubo. Okay? So during the harvesting process, if the harvester comes into contact with a potential contaminant or cuts themselves, they should be immediately taken out. Bawal po yun. Kahit na nga yung mga nilalagnat, inuubo, ayaw ko sa loob ng ano. Posible kasi na mag-contaminate sa fruiting house natin. Because technically, you will be a carrier. You will be the vector itself. Yan, pag-usapan namin mamaya, vector. Baka may gustong sumabol, no? Yung mga, sa biosecurity naman, paano hindi magkaroon ng problema yung farm ninyo. Yan. Now, many growers find it worth time to sort mushrooms during harvest. Depending on the market, some sort by size and some outlets prefer more uniform shiitake or of a specific size. May specific size. So for example, many restaurants like smaller mushrooms that can be directly added to their dishes. Pang design, no? Pang ambience. Pero iba naman gusto nila malalaki. No? Whereas other wants to slice them up and prefer mushroom as large as possible. Now, etong mga detalye na po to is okay. Now, eto makikita nyo, sir, sabi mo wag hugasan. Yun na nga po pinapakita natin. Yung iba kasi, eto ginagawa, huhugasan kasi madumi daw. But it would only be good if you are raising mushrooms outdoors and in a woody area. Pero kung nasa loob naman po, di wag na. At maganda lang to pag yung klase ng mushroom is yung matigas na klase. Like for example, shiitake that you can dry afterwards anyway. Now, cleaning of mushrooms should always be cleaned prior to storage due to the high moisture content, which is, as I said, 90 plus percent. It is not feasible to wash them in water. Instead, a variety of brushes are used to clean them. Pwede kayong bumili sa hardware yung mga soft bristle na pangpintura. In case na gusto nyo talaga na linisan siya. No? Kasi minsan may mga ganito. Pwede i-brush off lang natin yan or itak-tak natin. But I would usually suggest pag meron ng signs na ganito. I'll answer that, Sir Santos, later. So, yan po. Pag may mga ganitong signs, discarded na to. Reject ko na talaga. setting expectations, no? Except na lang nga, as I said, kung outdoor siya. Using your mouth to blow them out is not sanitary. Yung tipong hawakan mo yung yung binublow natin. Hindi po yun maganda, no? I saw a facility na meron silang compressor na para pang pahangin. Pero control dapat yung hangin. Pero usually taktakin mo lang, nawawala naman tapos brush. Ay alam ko na parang dagdag trabaho yan, sir. Yes. But if you want to hit the very prestigious na mga clients, yung mga talagang tipong mahal yung bili din nila sa mushroom, may dagdag po kasi pang primera klase, kumbaga pa. Na may tanong si Sir Jose. Ito ganda ng mga tanong ni Sir. Sir, bawal ba pumasok ng growing house? Ang babae, may monthly period. May nag-advise kasi sa akin, hindi pwede pumasok ng growing house. Okay. So I'll go towards history. Yung question niya. History would indicate even in the Bible as well as in the Quran. So regardless of your regardless of your belief, wala tayong inaanon na Kristiyano or Muslim pa. Regardless of your belief, it would always state something about that. Why? Because during the menstrual cycle of a female, any female, no? Kahit na yung mga animals natin, nagkakaroon po kasi sila ng, or dinidispose nila yung mga dead blood cells nila. And these blood cells would be attacked by decaying microorganisms or fungi. So since the microorganisms are really attracted to that, kaya sinasabing bawal daw. Even in gardens, bawal. Pag mayroon ka daw period, bawal ka pumasok ng mosque. In the old Judaism, bawal din yun. Kasi hindi naman sinasabing impure, but you might be attracting the bad microorganism. Pero kung marunong ka naman maglinis, di walang problema yun. No? If your hygiene is good. So sa atin, kita nyo, nag-explain tayo in a more technical sense lang po. Bakit? Kahit sa pagluluto, nandiyan dyan yan. And if you go to the Chinese naman, meron sila yung yin and yang. Di ba? Yung sinasabing mga feng shui. Yung may aura ka daw sa ano mo. And some people actually relate it as microorganisms that is being attracted by your negative or your positive na flow. So kung may sakit ka, syempre, pangit lahat yung mga dumadating. Ganun na rin yung sa pag-iisip natin. If you want to attract good, you must think good things daw. Kasi the positivity will attract positivity. So, ganun yung concept. Parang ganun lang. There are so many beliefs. Some are studied, some are not. But it always deals with the good and the bad. Now, since you are disposing something that is actually malinis yung yung dugo ng menstruation, that's really very sterile because it came from the body of the person. Unless lang may sakit siya. Malinis po yan. Pero nakaka-attract lang siya kasi i-compose or i-decay ng ating microorganisms and fungi, nakaka-attract lang siya. Kasi dead cells nga, mas gusto nilang i-decay po yon. So kaya po, minsan nakakasama pag pumasok sa mushroom house, especially kung walang sanitation. Kasi baka nakahagop na siya ng maraming masasama, dinala niya sa isang lugar na dapat maganda lang. Pero kung sobrang ganda naman ng lugar na talagang nag-i-spore si mushroom, ang ganda ng spawn ninyo at saka yung growth ng mycelium, talagang punong-puno yung bag. Posible naman po na kahit anong dalhin mo na pathogens, meron ka ng parang invisible na first field of good fungi and microorganisms that is floating in the air. Fungi kasi is in the air, in the water, in your mouth, in your eyes, it's everywhere. Microbes in general. So, kaya nasabi ng iba na pag may mushroom house ka daw or kawayanan, dahil sa ganda ng mga mikrobyo doon, hindi, pag may masama ka daw pakiramdam, like the Japanese, no, the samurai would, and even the monks would meditate in the bamboo area kasi daw ang ganda ng mikrobyo doon. And kung may sakit ka daw, pag pumasok ka sa isang ganung lugar, mali-live out sa lugar. So doon na rin yung concept ng iba na yung sinasabang detoxification ng mga lugar na ang mahal sa US. Di ba? Kasi nawawala daw yung sakit mo pag pumunta ka doon. So, yan. Alam ko mahaba yung explanation nun, but at least clear tayo. Storing. Once mushroom are cleaned, they should be stored in food-grade containers in refrigeration conditions at 36 to 38 degrees. Storage bins with loose-fitting lids are ideal. Never seal the lid on your storage container, and these are widely available from restaurant supply stores. But I will not suggest, again, I will never suggest this, yung plastic. Ang dami sa atin, nagpa-plastic eh. No? Yan. So, ang ginagawa po dito, pag nag-plastic kayo, if ever plastic pa rin ginagamit nyo, butasan nyo po para makahinga. Anything that is, or any plant or any animal, pag ito po'y na-harvest na, yung pinakapungango niya, kung tawag niya, yung pinaka-stem, will have an opening. And this opening will release methane. Methane will actually degrade all of this and start decomposition. Kaya mas mabilis mabulok. Kahit na tuyong-tuyo paglagay mo, may moisture pa rin yung mushroom. So, dapat nakakahinga. No? That is part of chemistry naman. Hindi ko na pa lalaminin. I will not go into it deeper. Tinatranslate ko yung Tagalog sa English. Lalamin. Hindi ko na masasabi. Pasensya na po. Pasensya na, no, I am used to yung EOP kasi yung English only palihog. Kasi nagdi-discuss ako sa mga educators din, no. I do a lot of teaching with different educators para matuto nila. So sana magamit niyo yung mga sinasabi natin. And this has proof. So if you have questions about what I'm stating, it is all very viable. Tanong niyo lang kay Google eh. Kay Google. Actually, there are researches for this. So make sure that your customers also have the appropriate refrigeration equipment. No? Or you are selling at a farm market or a small retailer that they can store your product adequately. Kasi hindi lang yan sa pag-deliver. Baka kasi upauna ang dami niyang kinuha pagkatapos hindi na siya kukuha. Kasi nireklamuan din siya ng kanyang sariling customer. This usually pag meron tayong mga retailers pa, no? So kunwari, farm ka, tapos ibabagsak mo sa isang deli kasi or yung mga restaurants, yung mga startup, no, na meron sila yung nag-iimbak ka na or even yung mga native products ng mga area. No, karamihan, mas maganda pag ganun, process mo na. So these are some of my products. I actually, these are all technically my products. This is a dried mushroom. Not shiitake, but this is oyster mushroom na dried. Pwede pala yun. Now, grading, no? Titignan, though it's not required, it is recommended for good marketability that mushrooms are graded. Primera, segunda, tercera, reject. Di ba? Pinipili yan. Sa laki ba? Kanya-kanya. Sa laki ba siya? O sa ganda, quality? Kasi if you do not choose the quality and you just go ahead and pack everything as is where is without checking, this will actually be a problem in the future. Kasi baka sabihin, ba't dati ang lalaki? Ngayon ang liliit na neto. Di ba? So, meron akong sinet na these are guidelines lang po, no? So, grade A, magandang grade siya kung white pa yung gills, caps is curled and rigid, matigas pa, and remnants of universal veil or white specks, no? There's no damage or defect. And maganda to sa mga retailers, mga restaurants, at saka wholesaler. Even mga catering services, SSAs. Now, grade B po is medyo minor damages and defects na siya. Medyo natanda, tumanda na ng konti, flattened na yung caps or slightly curled pa rin yung iba, no? And this can still be in retail, restaurants, and wholesale. Especially yung mga catering, wala na siyang pakialam. Mga restaurants, wala yung pakialam. But not that much sa retail. Pag retail po, pumipili sila ng maganda itsura. Now, ito yung karamihan na nabibili sa mall. Pag pumunta ka, mapa Robinsons, SM, SNR, usually ganito na. Bakit? Ayun, hindi marunong. Pero kaya nila mag-supply. Yun yung nakakataka. So extensive damages or defects na and harvested well past the time kasi gusto na palakihan. No? They're not into the quality. And what I usually do with them is I have them dried and value added. Some, but not all. Katulad sa akin, ayaw ko tumanggap kung ganito yung itsura. Pangit na yung texture, nakakasira sa lasa. And if you are really a chef, no, I used to work in a cruise ship as well as a 7-star hotel as a chef way back 20 years ago. Nung medyo bata pa, ambisyoso eh. So, yan. Ang punto natin is mapili yung ibang tao. So, dapat i-grade nyo rin para alam mo kung magkano yung presyo. Actually, eto, iba't iba presyo nito kung ako magbenta. No? Iba't ibang presyo po yan. Kasi ganito po yun. No? And I discussed this as well sa ating marketing or markets planning. Marami pong stages kapag gagawa tayo ng bagong produkto. Una is yung konsepto natin. Once you have the concept opportunity, may naisip ka, may nakita ka, gusto mong kopyain, you will try to see, kaya ko ba to? Kaya po ko ba to? Jumbo hot. Napakanta to. Then we will try to identify, may supply ba ako? Then you will brainstorm with the product. Pag na-brainstorm mo na yung product, then you do a market research. Now, kung hindi nyo po alam ano yung market research na yan, I'd like to quickly advise everyone and iniimbitahan ko po, no? Actually, pahirapan po ito. But we actually have a course on that as well dito sa Farm Tech. If you don't know your market yet, we actually will be having our agriculture record keeping and management. Meron po yan yung understanding yung market survey and study and business planning. So bago ka pa magnegosyo, alam mo na kung magkano ba puhunan na kailangan mo, may technology ka ba, and all. I discussed that sa first day pa lang. Sa second day po, doon na po yung anong yung record mo. And the third day would be assessment, which is technically gonna look like this. The whole process ang ituturo natin. So once you have your prototype, testing ka muna, choose the crop, make a test product, calculate yung cost mo, estimate the margin. May kita ba ako? Wala. Parang sayang. No? Kasi yung oil ko, di ba, mga raw materials, magkano bili natin. Then, we try to choose the product wisely again, kung pwede ba talaga. Identify sino ba customers ko. Dito napapasok yung market study. No? May mga laws and regulations. Anong label ko, yung packaging ko? Nag-iisip na tayo. We will then check our facility kung meron tayong equipment, tools, equipment, and materials. And magma-market testing tayo. Then, saka ka pa maghahanap kung saan nakakamura ng ingredients. Pag nakakuha ka na ng ingredients, meron mo dyan insurance nilagay din. Paano kung hindi mag-work? Marami nagpo-food processing na malakihan, they would go for insurances. Bakit? Para in case na may mag-food poisoning, may babayad. Okay? So, you would have to scale up your recipe. Pag nakakuha ka na ng prototype, pwede ka na kaagad paramihin mo. We will create a prototype of your label sa na-design mo, papagawa ka na, then you will provide it to potential buyers. Usually, una niyan, mga kilala muna natin. No? Kapitbahay, kapatid, and confirm the total production cost, set the pricing, confirm with the buyers, and then tingnan nyo yung distribution and marketing. Pagkatapos mo niyan, testing pa lang yun, dry run. Dito na tayo sa operational prototype ang gagawin. And makikita nyo na dyan yung record keeping, schedule of production, and release of the product. Hindi po yan na pagkatapos mo magluto, automatic okay na. Gusto natin ma-perfect muna. So maraming testing yan sa luto. Again, I'll be giving you guides anyway. No? Kahit na yung pagtitimbang, no? Like at the farmer's market, pwede nyo po kasing or yung naka-prepackage. Now, what I usually suggest if you have the capacity lang at malaki yung area nyo, ang gawin po natin is yung paper bag or yung bulsita. Yun po yung nilalagyan ko ng mushroom na ngayon kasi. Dati, I used to use yung styrofoam at saka yung cling wrap. No? So yung bulseta kasi, tapos lalagyan mo ng magandang sticker, thank you for buying from us, ganon. Ganon na lang po, pre-weighed pa siya. Pag ganon po kasi yung packaging natin, it's not only biodegradable, but it will also absorb the excess water na nilalabas ni mushroom. Kasi magsusporing pa rin yan buhay pa rin yan So, yung basa niya, i-absorb nung papel, and you can even put it directly in your refrigerator. It can even last for up to 2 weeks. Nang ganun. Huwag sa chiller ha, sa refrigerator mismo. So we're still talking about fresh mushrooms. Now, packing and labeling. Yan, makikita nyo. Ganito dati ginagawa ko. Kasi, ito yung karaniwan But you are incurring cost. At saka pag ganito, pakita ko, eto na-reject to We were supplying to a mall. Na-reject to kasi basag. Paano kung naubusan ka neto ng styrofoam? Even mag-stock ka ng 1,000 neto, most probably 1/4 niyan may biak kasi sa shipment. So karamihan ganito or yung plastic na version, which I will be discussing. No? Now, nasa inyo na po yan. Meron naman tayong mga plastic iba't iba. Sa label nyo po, according to the PNS, the Philippine National Standards by the Bureau of Agri-Fisheries Standards for edible mushrooms. No? Meron po kasi tayong Code of Good Cultivation Practices. I will be giving you a copy of that. Nasa cheat sheets po natin yan. So, eto pong good cultivation practices on mushroom. Guidelines po yan ng Pilipinas. Okay? Now, you just need to, basic lang naman Ano ba, identify the content, identify the name of the farm, yung address, yung ingredients, yung net quantity. Lagyan nyo na rin po contact number ninyo, saan ginawa, product of the Philippines, contact at this number. Hindi naman stricto kasi yung labels. Hindi ganun ka-stricto. The nutritional value, I really do not, it's just a recommended, but it's not gonna be the same always. Sa pricing naman, one can get out of their product is not fixed. Meron tayong mga variables niyan. Magkano ba yung puhunan mo? Magkano yung ginastos mo? Ano yung binabayaran mo ba labor mo? Yung gasol, yung mga ginamit natin. Kahit na yung dishwashing, yung paghuhugas niyan, I would take that into consideration. Kasi kasali yan sa cost. So, is it worth it ba or hindi? Ilang days po expiration ng nakapack na fresh and dried? Fresh, if properly, pag ganito po, usually around 7 to 10 days if in proper condition. Pag nasa pouch po, 14 up to 18 days. Yung papel na pouch. Okay? Now, pag dried naman po, usually, it would, actually hanggang ngayon, meron nga akong dried for 3 months na. Okay pa rin. Kinakain ko pa rin. So, posible po yan. So, drying. Maraming tatanong sa drying. Ang daming klaseng drying. In ancient times, so I'll be discussing ng mga processes, no? But basically, these are the things that we need to consider. Now, one of the processes that I'll be teaching you and talking about is drying. Alam na natin ano yung drying, no? Yung tanggal ng moisture content. Yes, you have a question, Sir Joven De Leon from HGB Mushrooms. May tanong po ba? You're raising your hand kasi. Pag wala po, I'll continue. Type nyo na lang po yung questions. Anyway, as I was saying, no, sa natural po sa mga tao na nagda-dry, especially in the Middle East, kaya nga yung mga dates, no, yung mga dried fruits nila, uso. Because natural naman kasi yung sunlight. Now, vegetables and fruits were also dried from the earliest times. The Romans were particularly fond of the dried fruit they could make. In the Middle Ages, purposely built still house, yung mga bahay na talaga, no, were created to dry fruits and vegetables and herbs. Now sa akin, I have a stainless drying rack kasi. Eto, makikita nyo. Stainless siya, papatong ko lang yung pagkain, tapos ilalagay ko sa init ng sunlight. And I usually cover it with a screen, yung fine mesh wire or mesh net, no? Yung puti. Sabihin na natin, parang muskitero. Pero mas maliit pa sa muskitero. So pwede po 'yon. Now, ang dami kasing design. Wala pong ni isang design na yung standard. All of them are allowable. Okay? So ilang days ba? Usually it would take, depending on the type of mushroom that we are drying, it would take around 2 or 3 days. Meron naman iba, depende sa klima, na isang araw lang okay na. Now, meron naman po kasi mga electric na mga dryers or even oven. No? Didiscuss ko pa po yan. This is just an introduction on the technology. Another one is freezing. In most cases, nangyayari ito for vegetables that is for commissaries. Yung pag sinabi natin mga commissaries, mga restaurants or mga catering services or mga hotels, yan, na malakihan or mga barko, no? So, hindi kasi sila talagang specific sa klase. Ang problema kasi sa mushroom is pag freeze nyo po yan, and I think testing na kayo, linagay nyo sa freezer, paglabas ninyo, mag-thaw out yan dahil yung crystals po ng ating mga ice, sinusugatan niya yung texture ng ating mushroom, pumapangit, nagiging sagi, di ba? Now, in some dishes, okay lang kasi yung ganon. Especially pag sinabing sabaw, no? So, they accept freezing. So, this is one of the food processing techniques that was developed, and this was developed way back in the 1800s. Actually, in history, no, as early as the Egyptian times, sa panahon ng mga pharaohs, they would get people to bring icebergs, no? Kukuha ng ice kung saan yan banda at irarap nila ng mga sako, mga cloth at dadalhin para makagawa ng parang ice cream sundae. Yung scramble na bibenta, bawal na ngayon eh. Yung mga ganyan. Umaabot pa yan sa Egypto. There are really documents on that. Now, fermentation naman, which is I'm talagang ginagawa ko to, no? You can create wines from mushroom. Sipin nyo. Pwede pala. Yan, no? White wine, mushroom, candied mushroom. Pwede palang gumawa ng wine or kahit na yung kimchi, no, yung sauerkrauts. These are fermented products in which was technically not invented but an accident. So, mga beer, mga uso ngayon sa mga hipsters, no? Yung mga fermented products. I'm eating fermented food. So, pwede pala to. Ano tong mga fermented food na pwedeng gawin? Atsara. That is technically fermented. Pero sa atin, niluluto lang natin. Pwede naman palang hindi nalutuin. Diba? So, there are so many. And I'll be teaching fermentation as well. I do this a lot. Like I create my own beer, my own wines. Nagkakambucha ako, kefir water, you name it. Ginagawa namin dito sa bahayan parate. Because this is something that is really healthy. I'm not claiming any health benefits, but it is going to provide extra nutrients. Tsaka maganda pang pang regalo. No? So pickling, katulad sinabi ko, katulad ng atsara, this is actually something that would depend sa inyo. Na pre-preserve yung pagkain dahil it's either acidic or sa sobrang tamis niya. So we will actually be teaching you how to make different types of pickles. Hindi lang yung natural na atsara lang. Ang dami kasi. We will be talking about the brining or yung paano gumawa ng sir, bonus paano? O nga, kasali nga to. Don't worry. Sali ko yan lahat. Talagang excited sa wine to si Sir. Tongge, tumutungga siguro to. Ako, even if I create wine, I seldom do drink. Meron nga akong mga bote ng mga nirigalo sa akin. Kala nila tunggero ko kasi malaki tiyan ko. Sabi ko, sa pagkain yan, hindi yan sa inom. Hindi. Last ako uminom, 1/4 yata ng bote ng San Mig Light. 2 araw ako na hindi makatayo. Hindi po ako uminom eh. I taste siguro mga half na kutsara, yan. Tinitikman ko lang yung mga ginawa ko. And I try to make it safe kasi pinangre-regalo ko. Mga, alam nyo na, yung mga politicians, yung mga nagbibigay ng mga projects sa atin, mga director ng iba't ibang, like for example, we have a participant here from DAR. Yung isang director, binalhan ko ng wine. Ang saya niya. Mga ganun, di ba? Pang regalo. But in most cases, this can be a big business. Pero may puhunan. May tiyaga din. Hindi ko, kahit na ituro ko sa inyo, again, Sir Ruales, kahit na ituro ko sa inyo lahat ng proseso, meron pa rin pong testing phase ito. We cannot assure you 100% na magiging perfect. Kaya nga may limits of liability akong sinasabi parate. Dahil kahit na ang daling gumawa ng atsara, kanya-kanya tayong panglasa. Para lang yung adobo, no? May adobong may gatas, may adobong masarsa, may adobong maalat, may adobong matamis, may adobong may itlog. Merong adobo na may banana blossoms. Diba? May adobo na may mushroom. Yan. Ang dami. May iba na parang hindi na adobo, piniritong baboy. No? Napabayaan. May iba tostado. Yan. So, sa sobrang dami po ng klase, we will try to teach you. Now, I placed here different informations, especially po sa mga educators kasi sometimes may mga educators for food processing na sumasama sa atin, hindi lang mga producers. Meron din iba na style lang, nagjo-join ng webinar para sila din ang mag-webinar. So walang problema sa akin 'yon. Yung tinuro ko, ginamit slide ko, no? Kaya linalagyan ko ng mukha ko eh. Curing, mostly sa karne to. Yung tosino, tapa, sisig. Wow. Ang stayan nyo pag binigay ko lahat yan, no? Malaking negosyo yun. Katulad po neto, this is actually tapang mushroom. And pag eto po yung naluto, nako po, pikit mata. Bakit? Pikit mata, hindi mo alam kung karne ba o hindi.